We're going to start right now, and I want to welcome also. Olaimi has done a great job trying to tell us the nitty-gritty of what we'll be doing here today. So we would be inviting our first speaker to get on to speak now. But before we do that, you can. So our first speaker is going to be Covenant. So I believe he's ready. Maybe he might want to come up now and just come up with a slide as well. Then I'll just introduce him why he kind of comes up with a slide. Okay, so Covenant is a PhD student in immunology at the University of Alabama at Birmingham. Okay, so UAB, that's University of Alabama, Birmingham, is ranked in the top 50 immunology research universities in the world. He earned a BSc Microbiology from the University of Ilorin before going on to earn a master's degree in Medical Microbiology and Immunology from the Federal University of Technology, Akure, Nigeria. I'm pretty sure there are many Futarians here today. Okay, so he graduated as the department's best master's student and was also named the best research student with over 10 publication contributions and a textbook chapter in 18 over 19 set. He also published in Nature Microbiology as a member of the BME Talent Network. He's currently researching inflammation in the Gulf and colorectal cancer. Over the past year, Covenant has mentored a lot of inspiring students on excellent research practices and graduate school through the SciLN platform. So join with me as we invite Covenant to the podium. Just do a virtual clapping as it comes up with this slide. We are so happy to have you, Covenant. You can have the floor.
Thank you so much for having me. I hope you can hear me okay.
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, thank you so much. First, I want to use this opportunity to appreciate. Can everyone see my slide?
Yes, you can see.
Yes, we can see.
All right. First, I want to appreciate the organizers of the program. Thank you for that lovely, introduction. And because I'm going to be the first person to start the event, the seminar today, I would just, I put on this slide to do a formal welcome to everyone once again. So you're all welcome. Thank you so much for having me here. I am so grateful for the opportunity. As he has already said, my name is Covenant Adeboboye. I am a PhD student at the University of Alabama at Birmingham Immunology program. And this evening, I believe it is an evening for us in Nigeria. It's still quite early in the morning. I said morning, in the afternoon here. So I think I can greet everyone good evening. All right, so I will be talking about becoming application ready. And in a couple of minutes, I will just walk us through just more of an introduction to getting yourself ready or getting your application ready for graduate school or for scholarship, the scholarship process. All right, so the first thing I like to ask as a question is which you think is more important? Well, I'm not really expecting a response because of the fact that we don't have so much time. But if I were expecting a response, I would say the trend we have seen among Nigerians, or particularly Africans or international students, is that we always submit multiple applications. I mean, I'm talking about submitting 30, 40, 50 applications. I have seen people submit as much as that when it comes to applying for scholarship or graduate school opportunities. And as much as it is important and it is acceptable to apply to multiple schools for your scholarship or for your graduate school, for your PhD, master's, whatever field it is, the mistake people make is that we come back to this African mindset of gambling. Well, don't mind the use of that word, but I mean, we are actually just churning out applications, hoping that at least one of it will work. There's an element of graduate school where you have to apply to multiple schools. But even the resident students here would not really apply to 30 schools. But you see this trend among Nigerians. But the funny part of this is that you would always see people apply to 30 schools. And I have seen several cases where people apply to 30 schools and they did not get any single admission. In fact, some of them never got responses back. All right. And so whenever I have this opportunity to talk to people who are aspiring for this process, the first point I always try to make people know is that your preparing for application is actually the most important process in your graduate school journey or your scholarship journey. And if you look at what I have on my slide here, I said submitting the application is 20%. It's quite interesting because to submit an application, it takes a lot of time. I'm not sure people can really submit an application, particularly in the US, where I am in, if you would be able to submit an application within a day or 2 days. Most of the times my application, because I like to take time, would always take me about 3 days to completely submit it, because you can always start and come back to your applications. However, despite that fact that you take about 3 days to submit an application, I'm telling you here that if you have to submit 10, 15 applications, let's say that's what your plan is, or to 10 different schools or something like that, then you have to do 4 times the work, or the 4 times the time you put into submitting that application is what is required to do to prepare for your application. What this is saying essentially is that it takes a lot of time and planning ahead to prepare for your application. So as much as it is important to submit application, most Nigerians just wake up a month to application and begin to churn out applications. Really, the most important thing is actually preparing your application. And as we go further, you will understand better what I mean by this. So again, just to reiterate the point I just mentioned, preparing for your application is the most important part of the process. Preparing is the most important part of this process. And what makes this important is because of all the things that you actually need for the process. For instance, you need a CV, you need a visibility, you need visibility. Most of the aspiring graduate student, I do not know what our audience is like. I mean, in terms of where they are in their undergraduate education or their master's education. It will be great if I have people here that are in maybe their third year, I mean 300 level, 400 level, and they have not gotten that far. Then those people would benefit much more from this. All right. But the point is, visibility is important. Your CV and visibility kind of summarizes what your profile is. And it's so interesting that you see Nigerians that are planning to apply for scholarships, they don't have any visibility on LinkedIn, on research domains, like you talk about ResearchGate and things like that. These are things you should work towards, academia.edu and Scopus ID, things like that. All right, those are things you should do before that particular time. And these are things that really take time to build. When you begin to look at all the people that you probably have seen on LinkedIn that are doing their PhD, their masters outside the country, I have never come across one of them that do not have a very strong profile when it's on when you see them on LinkedIn or any other platform for that in that sense. So visibility is important. Other things you need, your SOP, your personal statement. I am not talking about all these things. I'm just saying these are the things you need to put together before your application. And that is just saying that if you will put together quality application, you need a lot of time investment. And that means you have to start early. Some people might have to write GRE, depending on the field they are in. Engineering always need to write GRE and things like that. And some people might be applying to programs or schools that you feel you have a strong chance of getting in and you need to get your WES evaluation done or something like that. So it takes time. It's not something to start a month before. All right. Then, again, Preparing for your application has to do with getting quality applications in. And the analogy I'm going to give here is like you are about to cook a meal. And one thing you want to make sure you have ready on ground for your meal is all the ingredients you need to make the meal. Now, well, people would have different ingredients and can make different products out of it. But the point I am saying is the more ingredients you have to prepare your meal, the better you are likely to make the meal. For instance, you want to make you want to write your SOP. I have reviewed several SOPs. I have helped people re-strategize their SOPs. One of the challenges to help people write world-class or very good SOP, if I will put it that way, is always the fact that there's actually too little to talk about in that sense. And that's why becoming application ready is really, really important. Getting all these things, and I will talk about, that's the main part of this talk. What are the things that will form the ingredients you are going to put together to make up your application? And that is simply saying that whatever point you are in, I don't know if you probably are trying to apply to Italy, to the US, but I do assume most people would be targeting the US. And you probably are looking towards fall admission or something. And that's probably till September, depending on the school, September, October, thereabout. In that sense, you have to get everything going from now. All right. So the first thing is degree, your grades, your exams, professional knowledge. This is just a workflow of what I am going to talk about. And I'm going to just briefly talk about each one of them, research and volunteering and all of that. So for your degree, grades and exam, over here, or particularly for scholarship applications, grades are quite important. I would not say that if you do not have a first class, you can't get scholarship. In fact, that is far from it. People have gotten scholarship with a 2.1, people have gotten scholarship with 4.0, with 3.5, with even lesser, slightly lesser than that. However, if you're probably at the phase where you've not gotten into your final year yet, and you have this dream, you have this vision, you have this plan, then to prepare for your application ahead. So it is still, again, it is not what you prepare for a month before, 2 months before, 3 months before. It's something you prepare well in advance for, all right? So degrees, you want to ensure you have what is required for your program. If your program is microbiology, check online to see the kind of degree that is required for that particular program. In that sense, you want to work on your grades, if you can still work on them, all right? You want to do all of that. And then for people that do not have the best of the grades, in that sense, and I must tell you, grades are quite important in developed countries because their grading system is quite different. And this was something that I had to change when I got here. Even though I had good grades in Nigeria, when I got here, I realized grading is far, far different, particularly in PhD. All right, is that you can also do exams to put your grades together. There are several exams you can do. One of it that is common knowledge to everybody is GRE. All right, I always advise people that are applying in the engineering field to have GRE. In most cases, most schools will ask for GRE. But for people in the biomedical sciences, like me, I did not write a GRE. However, I had really strong research experience, or at least I think I did. All right, so these are things you want to put in place. Exams. So you are probably working towards writing your GRE exam several months before. Probably you are trying to write it now before that particular period of time. Another thing that I feel is important, which is the second point, is professional and knowledge development. This is quite important. And the reason why this is important is that if I will share my personal experience, when I started my graduate school journey, I realized that I was having challenge. Though I was passionate about immunology, I searched many professors and many schools outside the country on immunology. I realized that I could not really relate with many professors, many faculty. I can't relate with their work and their research. And this was a problem. At first, I thought they were doing things outside my interest, until I actually realized that because of the nature of the Nigerian education system or African education system, I was not having enough knowledge to encompass my field, or that encompasses my field. And what I decided to do was to begin to get this professional development. I do advise it for people. Go online to Coursera, to Allison. There are many platforms out there that you can really take courses for free. I took fundamentals of immunology course. I took a course that was on experimental system techniques in systems biology because I was targeting flow cytometry. I realized that in immunology, every professor I saw out there were doing flow cytometry. Till I finished my master's, I had never heard flow cytometry before. So I went online and took it because, again, this comes back to the ingredient I was talking about. You want to write a professional SOP. You want your CV to look very professional, to be very competitive. You need to know what is really going on in your field. So you can go online to Coursera, to Allison, take a couple of courses that broadens the scope of your knowledge in your field. You can probably read up on things in your field, like follow research publications that are coming out that are probably recent in your field. And all these things will help in getting you really ready to submit a quality application. Again, emphasis on quality application. And then the next thing is research. I think for most people that I know, if you are planning to do a PhD, it's usually research intensive. And that means that your PhD application would most likely require a lot of research experience from you. My school is more heavy on research experience. And most of the school in biomedical sciences that I know of this level, they usually would not really care so much about other things. Other things become important when you have enough research experience. And this is one thing that is usually lacking among Nigerian students or African students when we apply, because the best we have is what we did in our undergraduate, which is good because, again, in developed world, they really don't do independent research in undergrad. But you will still see, for those of them that are planning to go into graduate school, planning to apply for scholarship, they still volunteer. They take up internship for research roles, research internships in that sense. So I feel it is important to tell Nigerian students, to tell aspiring applicants, that while you are preparing, again, this goes back to my point, that it takes time and investment of time to really prepare a quality application. So you want to volunteer, you want to look. In fact, I will give you an exact value here. I will say you should try as much as possible to not have less than 6 months research experience or 1 year. At best, I would say, at minimum, I would say between 6 months to 1 year. I prefer a year, actually. All right. But the question will now be, okay, how do I get this research experience? I'll tell you from my own experience, which is the top on the list here, is that I was working with a lecturer. My supervisor had a doctor that was just coming up in this research field who had a lab that was just starting. And this professor was in my department, and I decided to work with him. He discovered my skills in writing. So if you have to develop your skills in writing review articles, in writing publications, and all of that, you can work on that. Professors, they need this for their promotion in school, yeah. And so they would really appreciate you. So you can volunteer to work with some of your lecturers in that sense in their lab. They do it here. I know a lot of students here that are just, citizens that are just coming into the program for this year 4 in that sense. And all these people had to take up research volunteering roles in the professor's lab. I did that in Nigeria. So these are opportunities. And there are institutes, some of them I have listed them here, just as an example. Some of you might know some of you might have to talk to other people to find out these places, all right? Ellis Biogen Institute, some of you might have seen them on LinkedIn. I think they do some good computational studies. If you have to learn computation, if you're in the biological sciences, in some cases for engineering people, all right, you do those things. So again, research, you want to make sure you do your research. You have at least 6 months or 1 year of research experience. You want to ensure, I always encourage people to have 1, 2, 3 publications as much as possible. Try to collaborate with your friends. Put your friends together. Write a review article on your field. That does not need so much research work. Wet lab research work. You can talk to your friends that have the same interest as you, form collaborations, and then you can publish papers together. So there are other ones all over Nigeria. There are private labs that you can work in. The point is, you probably will be looking for them to pay you. If it is just 2 months that you can learn something that you can add to your application. Again, this is part of the ingredients that you are going to be putting in your SOP. Oh, I have this research experience, an independent research experience. I took up a research volunteering role in this lab. This helps your application better. All right. And then the final thing that I'm just going to talk about is conferences. This was something that was lacking in my application, but I did cover up for this in several other aspects of my applications. All right. So conferences is quite important. If well, it's not everyone that will have an opportunity to it, but if you have these opportunities, please welcome them. Try to attend. Look for opportunities for it. But what I did, which was what got me that publication, the fact that I was published in Nature Microbiology as part of the Black in Microbiology Association Talent Network, was because while I was trying to improve my profile, I knew I needed conferences on my CV. I needed conferences on my SOP and things like that. And I began to look for opportunities. It was really not so forthcoming in Nigeria, and time was not on my side. And I went online and I saw this Black in Microbiology Association, which fits my purpose. And then I joined the association, joined their online conference. I did for Black in Immunology. I did a couple of online conferences in that sense. And because I was a major member in the conference, when they will publish some of the major things we discussed in Nature Microbiology, then they published me as part of the members of the talent network. And this was even before I applied for my graduate school. So these are things you could look into to put all these ingredients together. By the time you're writing your SOP, by the time you're giving out your SOPs to the facilitators to help you review, they have enough things to put together. One of the things I am very good at, I think, is writing SOPs and strategizing with it. But the problem again is that I have been unable to help people out most of the times when they have too little to discuss. It's easy to write 2,000 words, but are the things in those 2,000 words, are they driving home points that will make your application really competitive? Again, associations. I began to look for associations, like I said, Black in Microbiology Association, joined association, the ASM, Microbiology Association, American Society of Microbiology. I joined Genetic Society of America, joined a British Society of Immunology, because I wanted to be really competitive in my field, to know what is going on in that sense. Some of these associations are paid for, but the point is I was passionate, and developed nations, they love passionate people that have prospects. I sent email, believe me, I am good at sending emails. I sent email to these people, well, I can't pay to join your organization right now, but I am an aspiring PhD student. I have this track record. I have done this, I have done that. Would you be willing to waive the fee to join your association? British Society of Immunology is top 2, I think, in terms of immunology society in the world, in that sense. And they were like, why not? Wow, you have a good profile and all of that. So I sent emails to them. In that sense, I joined all these organizations, and they gave me better chances, not just as an ingredient to put in my SOP and my CV, but also because I was opened up to other opportunities about conferences and things like that. And then the final thing, so you can go up on your field, just go online on Google and search associations in your field, join them. This begins to open you up better into your field, and then you have more things to talk about in your application. Then the final thing is awards. All right, you probably want to do things, they organize seminars in your department on a particular part of aspect of your field. Something, just have something in your award section. All right. One very good thing is the fact that you can have things either on the section for conferences or awards. You can have things like your departmental oral seminar. If you did really well in it, these are things that make up your application. Again, just to reiterate all I have been saying this morning, the ingredients you have makes your application much more better. I had several people, I have had different kind of candidates that I have taken through this process. And some people I remember would send me that they have application fee waiver. And this goes back to the fact that people just churn out application. So I remember 2 people most recently who sent me that, dear mentor, I have got an application fee waiver from Harvard. Harvard? Why? And then this same set of people said, aside from the fact that they got from Harvard, another person said they got from, I think, Cornell or something. These are elite schools. These are the best of the best schools in the US. And I was like, okay, send me all your documents. And by the time I see the SOP, first is that it was not well written. And that's because this person just started planning some months before, a month before, 2 weeks ago, just wrote SOP within 2 weeks. I feel you need to invest more time into it. All right. I think there was a textbook I read on how to write a very, world-class SOP. And that textbook had a lot of examples on SOPs that people used to get to Harvard Medical School, Harvard Law Schools, and all those things in that sense. So these are the works you want to put into the process. By the time you're getting close to submitting your application, you realize that, okay, I think I am competitive enough to submit this application. And then you can say that you are application ready. All right, thank you so much. I really apologize if I have taken more than the time that is allotted to me. Thank you so much for listening to me. All right, thank you. Bye.
All right, thank you very much, Scholar Covenant. I hope you are still here.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. All right, so that we don't waste our time, let me just move on to the next speaker. And I'll be reading the citation here. Adeboboye is a data